You mentioned your work took you to Charlotte for some time. Was that nonprofit work, or were you always in the nonprofit world?
I didn't come to the nonprofit world until I came to Variety. So I was always in the sports and the entertainment world. The connecting force, I guess, is that Variety, in the roots of Variety, it was formed by theater owners. So it's been tied to the entertainment industry since its formation around the Great Depression in the 30s. And so it was first theater owners who started Variety up in Pittsburgh. So there's always been a tie to the movie and the entertainment and the music world. And I came up through sports marketing, got into more of the advertising and marketing agency work, and then got into the live music, a big company called Live Nation that owns and operates most of all the music venues and does all the tours, and they have kind of a monopoly or stranglehold on that entertainment industry. And I was working for Live Nation when I then made the switch. The CEO at the time of Variety I'd known for a lot of years, and she had always been talking about wanting to get someone over who was familiar with both the corporate world and the entertainment world, but to take Variety to the next level. So I'd been on the for-profit side my entire career until the last 13 years.
And when you say taking Variety to the next level, I would imagine a lot of that entails running it like a for-profit enterprise. Sure. You've been through, since your time with Variety, quite a few different stages, challenges, COVID being one of them.
Right.
Can you speak to some of the things you did in your early days as a leader, and then some of the challenges you experienced during COVID, for example?
Yeah, I think early on, I always say that being in both worlds, it seems like the nonprofit charity world is 5 to 10 years behind, what's going on in the business world. So when you think about the fundraising side of what we do, there's a good comparison to when I was with Live Nation. I was involved a lot in the corporate sponsorship world. So companies who wanted to put their names on the venue or to sponsor tours or get involved because it helped generate sales for them. If they could be associated with a tour or be associated with a venue, it helped drive sales. And the reasons folks used to sponsor those things, it first was just a brand. They wanted to get their name out. And so they'd throw banners up there and they'd want to have their name associated with something. And the trend started to be, well, you can't just do that anymore. You got to prove to us that you're moving the dial, that you're because you sponsor this venue or this tour, that you're actually generating new business and the ROI is there, so that the sponsorship dollars justified that investment because of the sales that you received. There's a lot of similarities to where donations were. Companies used to want to just give money to a charity or an organization because it was the right thing to do. They felt good about it. It got their name associated with doing something that, benefited the community. And then companies went through that same transition of what they used to do with sponsorship, of thinking about their giving. And they started to look at that and say, well, are we making, we're giving this money to an organization. Are we getting a return on this? Or why are we associated with this particular organization and not another type of charity or another industry? And those same trends then followed, where you had to start on the development fundraising side. You had to justify why investing in an organization was making a difference. You had to track that. You had to track the impact. You had to show that the company's involvement with your organization was meaningful, but it also was meaningful to the employees. It helped them, the employees wanted to work for companies that were doing good. And so it started to change. They weren't just writing you a check anymore. They wanted to be invested in, are your programs making a difference? Do your values align with our values as a brand or a company? And then as companies did that, you started to see foundations and individual donors start to get more sophisticated in their giving. So those trends then followed to say donors saying, I'm going to give you my money, but I'd like to see where it's going and how it's being used. And so that's maybe an example of how they mirror each other. I think the nonprofit industry maybe trails a little bit, but those pressures then ultimately fall on organizations as well. And so as any company does, we also then had to look at our programs and say, do we need to narrow what we're doing in our model to, one, be different? So we had to have some differentiation. We don't want to replicate what other folks are doing, but is our model working? Are we making a difference or an impact? And how do you measure that? And like any company does, and you look how you spend your money, and you got to be efficient with it. You want to be impactful with it. And so we had to take a look when I got into a COO role of really evaluating our programs and saying, what are we doing and why are we doing it? And we've narrowed, I guess, the model for us over these last 13 years.
And this might be a silly question, but when you say a program, are you referring to some of the things Variety is doing for children, or are you referring to, for example, fundraising events?
Yeah, and maybe the parlance is a little there. A program for us is a service. So when we think about a program, it's something we're doing to benefit the child.
Okay.
So in our Variety, for instance, we would say we have two core programs, which are the equipment and the therapy that we provide. And then we have two, what we would call our enrichment programs, which are our camp and our performing arts programs. So the programs for us are the services that we provide. So we're a service provider, and we're providing that directly to the child. We would think then from a fundraising standpoint or development standpoint, an event or a campaign would be how we would talk about when we're trying to raise dollars or raise the money.